Hey everybody, Garcia here, and today I'm taking a look at a solitaire card game that also has a mode for 2 players. This is Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden. In this card game, the player is trying to grow the finest garden possible in order to win the blue ribbon at the gardening competition. And you are going to do so in spite of your nosy neighbors trying to wreck your plants. And so in the game, you are going to reveal some cards, you will acquire one, plant it, and every few rounds, possibly one of your neighbors is going to come in there and take something away, rearrange what you're working on, mess with your best laid plants. So, like I said, there is a 2-player mode for this, but the game originally was a print and play for 1 player. It then got picked up, it got reprinted, a 2-player mode was added, and a few more neighbors that you can choose to play with, basically more content. I'm going to show you the 1-player mode, I'll explain how 2-player works, and then we'll come back after that, I'll tell you what I think of it. Here I'm going to show you the solitaire mode for the game, and then I'll briefly tell you some of the differences for the 2-player mode of play. But we've got 4 neighbors up here, the deck of cards, and then some player aids at the top. We start with 3 bees. The other 3 are here on the beehive. And then this character here, which is just some scoring at the end, all right? So each round goes like this. We reveal 3 cards into a line, and then I'm going to plant one of them. If I want to plant this one, I have to pay a bee, put it on the beehive, and then I'll plant that card. If I want this one, that will yield a bee. I'll take one off of the beehive and put it in my pool. And then the center one, if I want to plant that, I can just do so. No bee exchange happens. The cards each are going to have a few pieces of information. They tell me they have a number, which is going to matter for a few different things. 13 to 82. They have a number of victory points. In this case, 5, 6, and 6. And then a number of cards of this kind that show up in the deck. So for example, this bean card here is going to yield, if it scores, 6 victory points. There are 5 of them in the deck. And then there is a little white circle, which is how many neighbor tokens are drawn from this bag at the end of the round. So let's go ahead and go into it, all right? I'm going to go ahead and plant that one. No bee exchange happens. It's the middle card. So I'll have an area which can be 6 across by 3 deep. In the normal game, you can choose not to delineate where your edges are until it's denoted, right? As soon as you have 6 across, those are your edges. Or you can choose to make it a little more challenging and denote specifically where this card goes. That's up to you. I'm not going to worry about it for right now. So I plant that. And then from the 2 I have left over, whichever one has the highest number, in this case 82 right here, the white number tells me how many neighbor tokens I draw. So I discard these, I go in the bag, and I draw 1 token from it, and it's going to feature one of these 4 neighbors. In this case, this guy right here, Lord Carrot Body. So we're going to put that right there, and we go right to the next round where I flip over 3 cards. I take a look at them, and I am going to plant the lettuce as well, the middle one as well. And again, I can put this anywhere. It does not necessarily have to go adjacent to something I've done. I could put it over here as long as I'm denoting where things go. So if there's a single card space there, that's fine. I check these 2 out. This is the highest. A single neighbor token gets drawn because there's a 1 there. And I go in there and I draw 1 neighbor token. It happens to be for this guy, the mayor of Onion Town. So he gets that token. These 2 are discarded, and I keep on going. After every 5 times I do that, there's going to be one of the neighbors possibly is going to trigger and possibly take some things away from me, from my garden. I'll go back to that in just a sec. What am I trying to do? Well, when the game is fully over and I've gone through the whole deck, the neighbors have possibly meddled 3 times, then I'm going to score victory points. Victory points go like this. The main scoring for the cards themselves is based on adjacency of like things. So for example, this lettuce here, which is worth 5 victory points, will only score if there is another lettuce next to it that triggers that scoring. And so if I have 2 of them adjacent, it'll be 5 points for 10 victory points. If I have a whole group, they'll all score, okay? If something is alone, meaning there are no beans around this one, it will not score. Besides that, we've got a bunch of different awards of merit that could possibly score. And I'll just show you these on the screen here, but you've got the 4 corners, that's 12 points. The avenue with that pattern there, that's 14 points. We've got the promenade, we've got the monopoly. If you have all 6 Bs, you're gonna get 6 points for that. And then the mixed plot, which is very hard to do, therefore worth 30 victory points. There's also the bounty there with 6 vegetables of different types in a single row. Also kind of hard to do. You're probably not scoring a lot of other things. So there you go. That's how that goes. Like I said, this continues with 3 cards flipped and planted, until we get to one of these. And then on holiday is going to happen, and we check these neighbors. So let's say over the course of those different turns, 6 more neighbor tokens came out. Let's see what we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And again, these would come out slower, obviously, but I'm just pulling all 6 out right now. So we've got that, that, and that. And then we check. If there is a clear winner, then that neighbor's power is going to go off. So for example, let's say I only pulled 5 tokens and it looked like this. This character here has 3 neighbor tokens, 2, 1, 1. He is the one who is meddling, and we read the back of the card. He says he will take the vegetable with the highest vegetable number adjacent to a carrot. And so that would be removed from my plot. If there are no carrots in the garden or no carrots adjacent to any other vegetable, he will take the highest numbered vegetable, ignoring the carrot clause there. However, in my example here, there was a tie. Both of them had 3. And therefore, they get into a conversation and neither one takes anything away or messes with my garden. And once that's done, these all go back in. At that point, I would have planted 5 cards and possibly lost some, but I did not in my scenario here. And then we keep going. So the deck here, we remove this card and we do it again 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we go on holiday again and we see which one of them is going to bother me. And then a 3rd time with the final on holiday card at the bottom. Once that's done, then we follow that scoring I told you about, and we figure out how we did. This card on the back here, she is the president of the garden club. She's going to tell me how well I did and see which ribbon I got. So if I'm able to get, for example, 126 or more points, I get the blue ribbon and a rousing hurrah. So there you go. That's basically it. So 2-player game. Let's talk about that briefly. It's largely the same. You're going to have 6 neighbors instead. You set up the deck differently. And then the main thing, the main twist is flip over 3. You take 1 and plant it. So let's say, you know, this one over here, I want to plant that. So I pay 1 B. Each player has 2. I pay a B, put it back on there. I plant this. From these 2, I figure out which one is going to draw out neighbors. 74, draw 2, fine, I draw 2. I take 2 from the bag, put them out. That guy, that guy. Then from these 2, I put 1 on the bottom of the deck. I might take that, put it on the bottom of the deck, and then the other one I make available to the other player, and I denote what spot of the 3 it goes into. If they're going for onions, and it seems apparent they are, I might put it over here where they have to pay a B to get it. And then they flip over 2 more. If I had put it in the middle, then I would have put that in the middle and they would have revealed 1 and 2 cards. And then they'll do the same thing. Plant 1, neighbors, bury 1, give me the other one in whichever one of the 3 spots they want to. And then at the end of the game, we score the same way. The neighbors are going to affect both of us. We try to see who has the highest score. That's pretty much it. So it sort of feels the same, with that one little twist about giving your opponent a card and denoting where that card goes. So hopefully that gives you enough of an idea of what's going on in the game. There are, in this edition of the game, there are going to be extra neighbors that you can play with, and a couple of little variants and so forth, but I'm not going to go into that too much. I want to focus on the gameplay here. Let's go back up top. Let me tell you what I think. All right, that is Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden. This is a bizarre little card game. It has I wasn't sure what this even was when I first saw it. It's got a weird look. It feels like it's from an alternate timeline. I think that's what the designer and publisher are going for, a game that feels old-timey, maybe, right? A relic of a time gone by, perhaps. That's both good and bad, I suppose. But let me go ahead and tell you about it, all right? I'm going to start with the things I really like, and I'll end with the other stuff. So things I like. I thought the game length was fantastic. Game takes about 15 minutes for solitaire play. That's really good. That's a nice filler length. You end up with something on the table that looks good. So that's a great time frame if you have a few minutes you want to kill and you want to throw out some cards, see if you can get a high score, right? The ease of play is also pretty good. You know, the turn structure is very simple, so I like that a lot. And then the replayability, especially in this edition here, is pretty good. You have a lot of different neighbors, a couple of different optional variants you can choose to throw in there. Though I'd say the variants are just okay, but more neighbors is good. So replayability is not bad. And of course, you have a two-player mode on top of the game now. Though I will say, this definitely feels like a one-player game with a two-player variant, not a two-player game with a one-player variant. I think even if I had played this at two, I would have thought to myself, that's pretty good. This would make a great one-player variant. You know, there's a good one-player variant in here somewhere, because it just, those roots, no pun intended, are there, you know. So there you go. All right, now the things I thought were not as amazing. Thematic ties are, the theme is just a little weird. I think it's, some people might say it definitely feels like you're doing what you're doing, which is the point, right? Is it thematically what's happening? Is it what is going on? But I don't know, like, you know, you pay bees to get vegetables, doesn't really make sense, and the whole thing just feels generally abstracted. So I just find it kind of a bizarre thing. The aesthetics, and a lot of people like the aesthetics in this game. I'm going to lump them into that camp with the theme, in which they are just bizarre, obtuse, right? They are just a little strange, and I don't necessarily find them attractive. They might have a little charm. They're also a little creepy. The characters are just a little creepy. And then lastly, tactics and strategy and luck, all those things. Now, the game's only 15 minutes, right? It's not that big a deal, but it's a fairly lucky one. There are things in it that appear to be player-controlled that are really not. You know, you really don't know what's going to happen with the neighbors, for example. You're pulling tokens out of a bag. You can try to shoot for the odds that you think are going to matter and make a difference, but you're really guessing on that. You know, you're hoping that the one that seems to be out in the lead is going to be the one that happens, so you adjust your play and then you pull tokens. It's not that guy. So, hard to control that. The tactics are fine. I find the scoring, the little cards that say all the different patterns that score, a little overwhelming. I wish the scoring was a little more streamlined, especially for a 15-minute game, you know. Scoring the vegetables is great, but it's like, oh, the promenade is this, and then scoring, you know, this little pattern is that. If you do, you know, one of the cards is upside down, you do that. You know, it's a bunch of stuff. So you basically pick one and try to shoot for that thing this game, because there's not too many you can do simultaneously, right? Most of them cancel each other out, in fact. That seems strange. You cannot build on them. You cannot go for, oh, I'm going to try to do this, and if I can pull it off, I'm going to do that one also. You need to pick a thing and go for it, because you will not manage to do probably more than a couple of those different bonuses. They cancel each other out. My bottom line is as follows. A quirky solo game with interesting gameplay, a strange sense of aesthetics, and a welcome two-player mode. I'm going to rate this a 6 out of 10. I like it. I would recommend it for solitaire gamers looking for something quick, something a little outside of the ordinary, and just a game that's well produced and it's going to be a fun filler. So there you go, Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden. That's it for me, everybody. Thanks for checking this out. I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.